Hey guys, happy thoughts. So I understand that I've not been making a lot of videos recently, and that's mainly because I don't have a lot of time. I'm actually studying again, I'm doing MBA, and the whole curriculum takes a lot of my time, pressure, and energy. So it makes it really difficult to find any time to actually make videos on anything that I have to talk about or voice my opinions in any form. However, very recently I've seen an ad from Manyavar, and there they have tried to portray this one particular Indian marriage ritual of Kanyadan in a very bad light. I mean, that's in my opinion. Please don't take it wrong. If you have your opinions that are very much aligned with how the Manyaverse is, then absolutely not a problem. I mean, my own sister has a similar idea. Although we do talk about these things, and we are very open to talk about it. I'm not saying that I'm very constructed to what my idea is, but let's talk about what I'm trying to say. So it talks about Dan and Kanyadan. So let's first understand what Dan is. Is Dan really that bad? Because these days, what has happened is that we have actually just construed and constricted and narrowed the whole meaning and understanding of what dan is. It's been constructed to donation or just giving something to somebody because you possess more, probably, that's all. Like somebody is there needy, there's the beggar, there's a transgender somewhere, somebody, right? And they'll just come ahead and they'll ask you, and then you're like, okay, I'm giving some money to this person. So what I've done is donation. And then there are people who donate their used clothes, and they donate their books, and they think that basically what it will do, it will help the underprivileged, and therefore what they've done is donation. That's all fine and good, but I would tell you that's actually a very narrow sense of understanding what dan is. You have to understand what dan really signifies before you can move forward with naming that these particular actions are dan and these particular actions are not dan. Dan is good. Dan has been, if you look at our Indian history or mythology, or in general the practices of people, dan has always been considered as one of the most pious things that a person can actually do. Now let's talk about the particular understanding of how dan goes. Now dan is simply with saying that you have something and there is somebody else in the world who would probably appreciate it much more than you. So and right now I'm not talking about Kanyadan, please. Let's not focus on a person, but let's focus on things first. Because there were people in the older days where they would, kings would just give dan and donations every single day, and crores of cows would be donated, and there would be jewels donated, and grains would be donated. So things like these. So you have things, absolutely, you're the king, right? So you probably have control over everyone in your kingdom. But what do? You have something that somebody else would appreciate lot more if they receive it from you than you would. Right now you don't have as much appreciation from it, but they would have more appreciation, right? So right now you're the bigger man. You possess not just power, but the resources that the other person requires, that the other person wants and desires, and they have very strong need and desire to the same. And then you let them have it. Like, you're like, okay, I have absolutely no problem, I will give you this particular thing that I have, since I understand that you would appreciate it more, you need this more, and therefore, but you have to promise that you will take care of it. That's cool. They promise to take care of it more than you would, and they go ahead and utilize it further for making their life much better. And now let's come to Kanyadan. First of all, we can actually divide the whole world into two parts. It's not Kanyadan, it's Kanya Adan. Kanya plus Adhan. Adhan is basically receive. So it's that means that I am receiving the Kanya from you. When it says receiving, it already shows the amount of appreciation that this person has. there are two ways of looking at it, right? You can look at it from two different lenses. One lens is, the girl's father is giving away, donating his daughter as if she's a thing. And then the other thing is, this person who has come, the guy or the husband or the groom, he's saying with a lot of respect that, what, I am receiving this girl from you, and I am extremely thankful to you for this, because I need her a lot more, so that she can make my life much better than at what it is at today. I mean, I understand that it can, maybe go both ways, maybe not, but I would say, at least in my understanding, this saying as it goes, that behind every successful man there's a woman. Similarly, there is no particular saying that has taken it so much that, behind every successful woman there's a man. The simple reason being that women can self-sustain themselves. Men probably can't self-sustain themselves and have a similar standards of life as they would if they had a capable woman, with them, supporting them as their partner. So that's why a man needs a girl much more. So when a guy goes to a girl's house and they request that, can we please have this relationship with you where I would be wed to your girl, your daughter, so that my life and my standards, the kind of person that I am, is uplifted. That's a request, and the other person says, okay, no problem. I mean, that's one thing, right? Now let's look at its different parts. So there are things about, how there is no consent taken from the girl, because the father simply says yes and the girl may have to marry. That's a very archaic concept that has developed very recently. Let's look at this way. It's not been that, this is something that has always existed. The only thing that has always existed is the respect between the father and the daughter for each other. A father would not simply throw his daughter away in situations like wherever she is not even, how would I say this? She feels that this is not conducive for her, or she wouldn't agree to it. So that's one. And secondly, the respect of the daughter for his father, where if the father says something, then she would try her best to not deny, not say no to him. Simple. It's a matter of respect and nothing else. Now when you look at it from that lens, we can talk of Swayambars. How, since the father is not trying to impose his will, he invites all the princes and kings from all the kingdoms that he can. He sends invitations, and then people arrive, and then the girl is allowed to, understandably, that choose from what kind of kingdom they are from. Whenever she goes in front of a groom, his basically biodata is read in that particular moment. It's told to the girl that this is the person, this is where they've come from, this is what they do. Maybe it is true that you cannot figure out a lot of things simply from reading a biodata of a person. That is true, okay? But isn't it also true that the first stage of any kind of shortlisting is actually, CV shortlisting? So I'm sorry if that was something, MBA jargonous, so I can't help it that way. But yeah, so the whole point of it is that it's being construed very, very wrongly in our society at this point of time. We're talking about things which we don't understand, or if we don't understand it completely, and half knowledge is very, very deadly, toxic, poisonous, whatever the saying is. So I think that the ad for me wasn't bad, not in bad taste, because there were a lot of things that she actually talked about, which is good. The ad addressed things like, your pariah dhan, which is wrong. Not pariah dhan. Dhan is good. Dhan is not money. Dhan is not money. Dhan is basically value. You are valuable. You are very valuable to this society, to me, to somebody who would have your company. So you are dhan. You are. And please don't take dhan in terms of money or terms of jewelry and something that I possess and own. No. Dhan is not something that I possess and own only. Something that is very valuable. You as a person are very valuable. That is why you're dhan. But you're not paraya dhan, you're just dhan. So you, or at least using it and putting it into the psyche of the girl that you are paraya dhan, you are somebody else's dhan. That's not good. You are valuable. That's it. And not a valuable property, please, because we also use the term valuables, and then that's when we think about all our belongings. So it's not talking about belongings. When you use words like dhan, when you use words like dan, please don't construe it in the terms of our today's dictionary or today's understanding. That's absolutely wrong. Then if you don't have the idea why these words were developed in a particular fashion, in a particular regime and time, which is probably even unknown to you, and for a lot of time you actually even don't believe in it, and then you go ahead and say, hey, listen, I think this is what this means and this is wrong. No, first try and understand what it actually means in an ancient perspective from when it was started. There may have been, instances or periods where there were certain inhumane practices that were designed, but that has been all around the globe. Inhumane practices, not just in India or in Hindu religion. And a lot of people might just try and poke a finger at me or somebody else and raise this argument that sati pratha was one of the biggest parts of Indian society and Hindu religion. Absolutely incorrect. Absolutely incorrect. Sati was not a part of Hindu practices for a very long time, and even if it was never a forced practice on anybody. It was a practice which somebody accepted in manner how pharaohs had their guards and their people buried alive with them, so that it would represent that these people would go with them in the afterlife. So the concept of marriage is all about how once you are wedded to person, you are wed spiritually, eternally. This concept of 7 lives and all has come very now. Once you are wed to somebody, you are wed eternally, and you are wed through your atma, not from your deh or your body. So once that's the case, then if this atma is gone, say I die and I have a wife, I'm wedded, as I am not right now, but say I am wedded and I have a wife, and what happens is I die, so my atma is no more in this body. So if my wife chooses to stay here, no problem. But if she also chooses that she will also leave her body here on this world and go away with me in her atma form, so just leave this earth and go away with me, that's also a different sort of thing, right? So it's like I went to vacation for something, or I left my job and started doing some kind of work that can involve me also working from anywhere. My wife has a conventional job, so she can't leave, but if she decides to leave that job and she says, okay, I will also travel the world with you, so I'd say that's not wrong, that's not forced, right? She can choose it. Now if it is being forced on somebody, that period, that era was wrong. I mean, you can have an example. If I say that it was not forced, let's take example from Ramayana. I mean, these are religious scriptures, right? So let's take example from Ramayana, that how our religion was so nice that all the 3 mothers of Ram did not have to indulge themselves into sati. Then the wife of Bali did not have to indulge into sati. Pretty much no one in Ramayana had to indulge in sati. If you look at Mahabharata, throughout Mahabharata there have been numerous people who died, including the let's take Abhimanyu. I mean Pandava, one of Pandava's mother, Madri, she went for sati with her husband. But if you look at Abhimanyu's wife, she did not become a sati. Then there were other similar women who lost their husbands. They also did not go and just burn themselves in the fire. So it's as simple as that, that people did not have to indulge themselves into sati. It became wrong when it was being forced on people, and that's pretty much it. Okay, so the only reason I've made this video is that I understand that Manyavar has got a really nice marketing tactic to themselves, and when they make an ad like this, a lot of people would actually sympathize with them. That's a great idea, absolutely not a problem. But if you're making an ad, it influences a lot of people, too many people. So don't make an ad with half knowledge or knowledge that is based on today's times, and influences a lot of people using the words that are not today's. What is use words? Use the Urban Dictionary to find similar words for dan or donation. No, use that. Don't use the word dan and kanya dan, which is completely different sandhi vichhet to itself, and then you're like, no, this is what it means, so why it is so. I'll question the practice, even if I don't understand it, even if I don't understand its value. I will just question it. Why? For the sake of questioning, so that a lot of rebels will align with me and my product will sell a lot. That's brilliant marketing strategy. But I think apart from just marketing, if you create this kind of social notion where people who don't understand also get to say whatever they want, that's, I believe, is not a great idea. That's not a good thing in itself. And with this, I would actually close this video. However, if you have watched this video throughout and you still don't agree with me, I have absolutely no qualms with you, and we are still just as good of friends as we other were. And you can write in the comments or somewhere else, send me a message and tell me why I'm wrong and why you think my opinion I shall change in a particular fashion. I have no problem. I would listen to you, and if you are open for discussion, most certainly I would like to discuss with these things with you further, so that maybe I would enhance my knowledge, or maybe we'll be able to agree on certain one particular opinion at a later stage. With this, I'll close today's video. Thank you so much for listening, and see you guys soon. Bye.